There are numerous approaches to instructional design for integrating creativity into your class. In this lesson, we'll introduce you to a few different popular models and show you how they allow for injecting creativity throughout the planning process. Let's start with the importance of backwards design. Backwards design means starting with learning outcomes and designing backwards to individual activities, lessons, or content where students can demonstrate their knowledge. This principle is at the heart of approaches like understanding by design, ADDIE, which sequence the instructional design and learning process with the end result in mind, and universal design for learning, which encourages instructors to start with the why of learning first, through the lens of representation, engagement, and expression. All of these frameworks have a few things in common. They are adaptable to creative teaching across all subjects and grade levels. They encourage teachers to plan instruction with the end in mind, some more explicitly, and others more iteratively. Most importantly for this course, they allow you to name creativity and creative thinking as an end goal, and create a framework to then infuse creativity into every step of the planning process. We encourage you to spend some more time with these three models, or to use your current model for instructional design, and ask yourself, where in my planning process can I make creativity more explicit? How can I design for it in each element of my class, from the learning objectives to the assignments or activities, and in areas like social and emotional learning, inclusivity, and distance learning? Putting creativity at the forefront of every stage of the planning process means that creativity will become an integral part of student learning and also part of your process. In the words of creativity scholar Mitchell Resnick, think of the planning process as tinkering. Tinkerers understand how to improvise, adapt, and iterate as new situations arise. Tinkering breeds creativity. Start small, try out simple ideas, react to what happens, make adjustments, and refine your plans. Let's hear from educators like you about how their instructional design process or their tinkering created aha moments in their classes.
I will often use Understanding by Design, or UBD, in my class as I am designing with the end in mind. This is essential for a creative classroom because you need to provide your students with opportunities to make their thinking visible and show what they know. So as I am designing my instruction, I make sure to have those opportunities for students to show and tell their stories.
As an educator, I use both the Understanding by Design as well as the Universal Design for Learning framework. And what those frameworks enable me to do, especially when I use UDL, is to consider whether or not my lesson is accessible to all learners.
The way I plan and design my courses allows for student success because students have unique ways of expressing themselves by using different mediums, including Adobe apps, post, video, Spark Page as well, to communicate their learning. And students can engage in activities that are designed to not only help them acquire new skills, but activities and strategies that focus in on their unique ways of learning.
The better planned I am, the better my students will have success in my class. I'm often thinking about the end in mind and how I will provide my students with opportunities to make their thinking visible. When I provide those opportunities and checks along the way, I will often see way more success in their learning.
I'm always challenging myself to find ways to make things culturally responsive, accessible, and engaging for my students, and open-ended enough with enough choice and voice so that students can demonstrate what they know in a way that excites them.